There is no end to what the sciences can discover about the physical world, including the traits that distinguish human beings from other living things. Each day seems to bring new discoveries in the fields of genetics and the behavioral sciences, allowing us to peer ever more deeply into the processes which govern our lives physically and interpersonally. Even in the moral realm, science is helping us to understand how and why we think as we do, and the forces that shape our decision-making processes. The Torah provides its own explanations, which are sometimes limited by the culture out of which it emerged, but which often transcend that culture, providing eternal truths that know no boundaries of time or place. There's a curious verse in this week's reading in Parshat Breishit that is a case in point. When God first contemplates creating Adam, the human being, God seems to confer with others, saying, "Let us make Adam in our image, after our likeness." That translation is an accurate one. Us, our. Who is God talking to? Well, the majority of rabbinic opinion assumes that God is consulting with the angels, the heavenly retinue, to make a new creature that is, nevertheless, something more than another animal. But another line of interpretation is suggested in the Eitz Chaim commentary, which suggests that God is speaking to the animals. It is as if God, looking out over the totality of creation on earth, says, "How about if we do this next?" Not meaning that the animals have a decision to make with God, but that somehow they will have a role in creating Adam, and that the resulting human being will be something like God and something like animals. Now, for those who like to corroborate what we know about evolution with biblical texts, this might be a good verse for you. God can be seen here as creating humanity through the animal world. But for the moment, I'm more interested in what the idea of our image, referring to God, means in terms about what is truly unique about humanity, what it is that makes us different from the other creatures that God created. One major difference is that human beings have free will. The story of Adam and Eve establishes the origins of people as choosing beings even before they eat the forbidden fruit. It is their capacity to refuse God's command by eating that fruit that shows that they are thinking, choosing creatures. They may make bad decisions, but they are still able to make them. And that attribute, that choosing, flows down all through the generations to all the others who will say no to God, from Pharaoh to Jonah to the Israelites, more times than we can count. So when I read in the news that there are some in the scientific community who deny that free will exists, who claim that we are simply pushed to do things out of animal instinct or cultural or psychological causes over which we have little or no control, I'm taken aback. It's not so much a matter of science claiming something different than what the Torah does, because that happens a lot, and frankly, science is usually correct. My objection to it is that those denials of free will fly in the face of my experience of the world, while the Torah's description of that world rings true. Until there is a convincing reason to abandon the truths of the Torah, I will continue to understand the world through its representation of humanity. It isn't always right in the details, but in this case its truth seems closer to reality than the claim that we are just another kind of an animal, unable to make choices. That's one of the clear lessons of Breishit. We are different. As the last, newest thing in creation, the Torah sees us as the pinnacle of the process of creation, or even as the purpose of it. Being human means being descended from both God and nature, and being imbued with the attributes of both. We are mortal, yet aware of our mortality. Our lives are finite, yet we look beyond ourselves and our world to understand more than any animal ever could. We feel the presence of a commanding God, and sometimes, for no good reason at all, we refuse the command, proving all the more that, like God, we have the ability to change our minds, and that we have minds to be changed. Shabbat Shalom.